Thank you for coming, everyone. I'm Kate Nolan. I'm the Program Manager for helping regional communities prepare for drought, joined by Fee Bradshaw, the Community Engagement Coordinator here. Just to start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands of which we're all meeting today. I'm in central Victoria on Dja Dja Wurrung country, and I thank them for their continuous care of the land and the waterways, the plants and the animals for many, many thousands of years, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We've got a great webinar session for you today. 3 panelists are here to talk about their youth projects. And with that, I'll hand it over to Fee.
Thanks, Kate. Hello there, everybody. Thanks again, Kate, for sharing. Just a quick rundown on this morning, or this afternoon rather. Like Kate said, we'll have a panel discussion. 3 projects that have been doing some awesome stuff in their communities, in engaging young farmer networks, and plans for the future and stuff. And we'll have the typical program updates, and on we go from there. So, firstly, I'd like to introduce from South Australia, from Agricultural Innovation Research in Eyre Peninsula, Amy Wright. We also have joining us from the Mallee here in Victoria, Birchip Cropping Group. We have Grace Hosking, and Riverine Plains, Laura O'Riordan are joining us today. So thanks, team, for coming along. So I'll just actually, before I go too far, make sure that all the girls are actually here, because Amy did say she's out and about. She will get here as quickly as she can. No, Amy's not here yet, so that's okay. Grace is here, so I might pass over to you. Grace, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
Thanks, Fiona. Yeah, Grace Hosking. So I work out of Birchip Cropping Group, managing the extension and communications team. So we run what we call the BCG Young Farmer Network. It's aimed at the youngest generation on farm. And I'll go into it a bit later, but a series of different activities as part of that program.
Thanks, Grace. Laura, I can see you're here too. Do you want to just pop your camera on and say g'day?
I think my camera is on, but
there you go.
Hi, Laura O'Riordan. I'm in the engagement team here at Riverine Plains. Been with the business for about 12 months now, and sort of taken over this program that Bree McPhee, who used to work here, started. And we've got a couple of events that we do as part of the program, which we'll talk about as part of the panel.
Thanks, Laura. And Amy's just not quite here yet, so we'll kick on. Amy said that's fine for us to start without her. So, what we do have a couple of questions that we've asked the team to actually have a bit of a think about before we got started. So I might throw over to you, Grace, just to go in alphabetical order. Birchip Cropping Group. So if you could give us a rundown, Grace, on what was the issue and what did you do?
Yeah, no worries, Fiona. So what we kind of found was that in the Mallee and in just broader northwest Victoria in general, that we had this phenomenon of young farmers stepping back into their farm business with new and really valuable skills that they might have learned off farm, be that university or some other form of tertiary education, might be like accounting, business management, some sort of legal studies, and it really can strengthen the strategic direction of the enterprise. However, it also creates this phenomenon where they lack some of that foundational agronomic knowledge and sometimes have limited experience in the practical farming element. So that was probably the first kind of challenge that we identified. And then secondly, that many of them hadn't actually lived through a significant drought, given that in our part of the world, obviously as like broad brushstroke, it's been kind of average or above, and we haven't had consecutive what might be deemed drought years in many cases over the past decade or so. So then we kind of have this dual challenge where there's this skills gap in basic agronomy, decision making under stress, and that like seasonal risk management, and also this potential underestimation of climate variability, because some of the recent years haven't necessarily reflected the extremes that this region's kind of known for. So we established this young farmer network in response to these emerging needs, and we now deliver seasonal decision-making kind of workshops and things might be through technical Q&A sessions. Sometimes it's just an informal meetup. Often it is a really regionally tailored workshop. And then more recently, we've had our Young Farmer Network Ball, which was designed with a real network focus based on getting people together. So importantly, at the top of it all, we've really focused on keeping it as a really social, safe and welcoming space where young farmers can come along and ask those what might be deemed really basic questions, and often the questions that they might not feel comfortable asking back on the farm. So it might even just be as simple as interpreting a soil test, or how to respond to like a frosted crop was something we saw a lot last year. And it kind of lays the groundwork for that more informed decision making in future dry seasons. So we find, we really focus on that peer-to-peer learning, peer-to-peer connections, that practical learning, and hopefully in doing so we're building a network and also building those agronomic drought resilience in that next generation of farm managers.
Thanks, Grace. We'll go through more, but it looks like you've had some really good conversations in community to keep that rolling. So, Laura, I might throw over to you now, if that's okay. What was the issue, and what did you guys do at Birchip, at Riverine Plains? Sorry.
So I guess it's not really an issue, but the intent around the program was keeping and attracting people, the younger generation within our catchment, the Riverine Plains catchment. And the way that we were going to do that was provide networking and mentoring events. So as well as also providing opportunities for businesses that are within the Riverine Plains catchment to, I guess, scout people that may have not necessarily studied around here or from around the Riverine Plains catchment, but to secure job opportunities for businesses as well. So it was sort of like two-pronged, I guess you could call it. So there was we formed two separate events. So one was a Grey's dinner. So that was purely like a social event, building connections, etc. Among the younger demographic. And then we also had what we called a Cultivate and Connect, which was having a series of what we called mentors. So they were people from businesses within the Riverine Plains catchment, like elders, etc., where they would have someone who had been within the business for quite some time in a particular role, and then would give insight into their day-to-day operations, what they would do to give insight to the younger gen, as you know, to see whether they would be interested in potentially doing that as a career opportunity. So that's what we've been working on.
And it looks like Amy might have ducked in now. Amy, there is one Amy on screen, so I just want to make sure that it is. Hi, Amy on the road. Thanks for joining us.
That's okay. Sorry, I was a little bit late.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So I might just take a step back a bit with everyone everyone, just so that Amy can introduce yourself. And then Amy, the others have already responded to the first question, but that was, what was the issue and what did you do? So if you could just introduce yourself and just give your response to that one, and then we can keep on keeping on.
Yep. So I'm Amy Wright. I work for FRRR. We're a farming systems group based on the Eyre Peninsula in South Australia. And myself, I'm based in a little town called Kimber. So this project, we had the project idea for quite some time, and the concept was one that was quite appealing, I guess, to our group and our little board. And I'm lucky enough that as the Sustainable Agricultural Facilitator for the Eyre Peninsula region, I get to work with a lot of small farming groups. And there was, I guess, the push and the desire from a few of our ageing Ag Bureau groups to do something for the next generation and get them engaged and, I guess, kind of making their own decisions in some respect as well. So we were approached directly by a group called the Rudau-Tucky Ag Bureau Group, and I guess there was probably 4 or 5 key drivers that were dads of young lads, and they're like, right, we want to do something. Let's do this. And we had actually formed this, I guess, idea and concept, and we'd had one small event with them prior to getting the FRRR funding, and I guess it went from there. We popped in and we were lucky enough to gain the funding, and we, I guess, formally established that group, as well as established another group further west on the west coast of the EP, up around Penong and Ceduna. So that group was a little bit harder and a little bit more challenging, but yeah, that's I guess why our group came apart. Our project came about to really help foster the next generation and give them an outlet to formally get together and I guess learn.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really good. So it was actually the blokes that are getting ready to start thinking about stepping away from that, have that succession planning and that generational change is there's been a lot of, we've heard a lot about that over the last 12, 18 months, 24 months, that those generational change conversations have been really tricky. So it's, it's fantastic to see that dads are saying, come on, boy, let's get you sorted. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay, so I'll throw around to the next question, and that is thinking back, what worked well and what would you do differently? So I might leave that with you, Amy, if you can respond to that, and then I'll move forward through back to Grace.
Yeah, so I guess what I found worked really well as being the one that was starting to form these connections, and I was lucky enough that I had the prior networks, but it was definitely the dads being the drivers. So they were the ones at the start saying, come on, lads, get along, like, you need to go to this. And even now they make sure their sons have the time. It's a priority that the children are getting off farm to learn and coming together. So that's good. That's definitely worked. I guess I'm relatively local to the group, so it's not very far for me to travel as a facilitator, and I wouldn't call myself a driver of the group, but as a facilitator, it's still close for me to touch base. I know when their football trainings are. I can avoid things like that. I know what's happening within their communities, and we work around that for sure, and that definitely makes a difference. Whereas our other group is about 3.5 hours drive from where I am, and it's a little bit harder to get that I guess, social connection with them, but just to be there, easy, drop of a hat, a little bit more opportunistic, it's a bit trickier, but it still has worked. It's just a little bit more planning, I guess, has to go into that side of things.
Awesome, thank you. So with that, the group that's a little bit further afield from you, are they like keeping those connections and those conversations and touch points going when you're not necessarily there? Like, is it becoming a bit more organic?
Yeah, it is. Yeah? It is for sure. Like, it was just very slow to get started, I guess. And I'm comparing it with our other group that we had already established prior to the funding coming in. So it's just, I'm not really comparing apples for apples, I suppose. But yeah, no, they are definitely still talking. They're a smaller group, the Western group, but they all live in each other's pockets, I suppose. That's a good way to describe it. Whereas our, and when I say smaller, I think in total, there's about 18 of them. And then our Rudao group, which is probably only covers maybe a 120k radius, there's 35 under 35s.
Yeah,
So
wow.
it's a much higher density of that younger generation in the Rudao group.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Grace, I'll throw over to you now. Thinking back what worked well and what would you do differently?
Yeah, thanks, Fiona. I think one of the key reasons why it's been so well received is that it was really farmer led from day one. So we don't set the agendas for them, rather the farmers kind of set it for us. So we'll reach out prior to whatever activity we're holding, chat about what topics they might need support with and what sort of event suits them best at that time of year too, because we know it changes so seasonally. So I think, when they feel that they kind of have ownership over that content, the participation has kind of just followed naturally. We've also found that keeping them really informal and quite low pressure is by far the most effective model. I think for a lot of those farmers that are like new to that decision-making role, formal workshops can actually feel quite intimidating. So if it's kind of just like a crop walk followed by a barbecue or a few beers at the pub, we find that relaxed atmosphere, the conversation kind of just flows more freely. And that's where we found the trust has really been built. So like quite literally standing around a ute. I think what's also worked well is that partnering with local experts, so it might be agronomists, accountants, researchers, it's people that are already really trusted in the community. I think that's helped add to a lot of credibility and also helped us bridge that gap between the technical knowledge and the real world farming decisions. And it also allows the growers that attend to follow up with those people post the event. So that's worked really well. In terms of what probably hasn't worked as well, I think going forward, we'll try to create a bit more of a structured learning pathway. So at the moment, we kind of have one-off events, which are great, and we get really great feedback, but it would be great to be able to kind of guide the young farmers through more of a progression. So you can take them from that basic agronomy and seasonal decision-making kind of level through to more advanced topics like strategic planning, some financial planning, that sort of thing. So I think providing a bit of a structure we'd be able to kind of meet growers where they were at and build upon that capability. So that's definitely what we'll look to do going forward. And as part of that, we're always just looking to track impact better. So obviously through, I think at the start we might have been mentioned, but we had some funding through the Networks program and now community impact program. So that's been fabulous, and that's provided obviously evaluation through those funding streams through FRRR. But I think ongoing some more light touch evaluation points would be great too, just so we can continue to tailor the program to meet the needs of those attending a little more.
Yes, that's awesome. And just to make everyone aware, Grace referred a minute ago to Networks, and that was the first iteration of the Future Drought Fund. In the communities better prepared communities structure of the Future Drought Funds. That was Networks to build drought resilience. That was delivered FRRR and ARLF together as well. So thanks, Grace. That's a good point, that access to those the funding is, can be a game changer in some communities. So Laura, I might throw over to you now for Riv Plains.
Yep. So I guess from our perspective, what has worked well for us is that our intent with keeping people in the region and mentoring through the two events that we have been successful in that and building strong connections. So we've had over 90 people, for example, attend our last Grays event and had really good input and engagement from local businesses for our Cultivate and Connect in mentors, so a good spread there. So I think the next step for us is to build on these connections through both the businesses and our I guess, network of the younger people, and building their knowledge via either courses that we run ourselves or particular different skill sets that we run through projects or other programs within Riverine Plains, and communicating the benefit to that younger generation. So rather than creating new programs or new projects, rather communicating to them that sort of makes sense or how it's going to benefit them. So rather than just communicating the same message to, say, an older gen farmer that's running the business, then talking to someone that might just be stepping into the role, or a manager, so slightly tweaking the message to get them to attend the event. So in the past, they haven't necessarily been attending, field walks or something like that is related to it, but maybe another project that we're doing, but is certainly necessary to them in, shaping their careers, whether it be on farm or at a local ag business. It's just a matter of, changing the way that we communicate and how we communicate. So they're really digitally active. So we've got really good awareness on the metrics when we have promoted online. Also looking at creating groups on our social platforms for them to then communicate, because they're really open with sharing what's worked and what hasn't worked. So creating those platforms for them to be able to do that, and building the community that way. So it's not necessarily creating new things, it's about just being more targeted with our comms to get them along to things that we're already doing at Riverine Plains.
Yeah, that's good. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? Like this demographic is a little bit, well, a lot more tech savvy than, my age bracket.
Yeah, a lot more stubborn too. Like they don't really see the benefit in going to events or attending field walks and that sort of thing. So, what's in it for them?
Yeah. And I guess too, that shows as well that like BCG, for example, I know you guys have had a really good response rate to some of your field walks and, your field day type events and activities. So, it's just not a cookie cutter approach, is it? All right, well, that brings us to our third question. But before I do, if anybody's got any questions that they want to ask the team, there will actually be time to do that after this last question, before we move into the programming stuff. But we really wanted to make this session about, you through three groups who have done such a great job with your projects in sharing that with the rest of the group. And, I know there's a little bit of interest in this topic out there. So, if you've got questions, don't be shy. Now's the time to ask them, but you can always come back to us later if you've got more. But that will throw me through to our third question. How has your project improved drought preparedness in your community? Amy, I might throw back to you to go back to alphabetically.
I love that. So I guess I'm have been taking a pretty broad approach to this question. We really believe that we have this far into the project. We've really strengthened, networks within our groups, but also outside of our groups with our bringing in of our expert speakers, strengthening and relationships with consultants and agronomists available in our areas. But I guess really just giving the guys and girls, there are some girls that attend, the confidence to ask questions and knowing what questions to ask when we do face tough and difficult times in our region. That one has probably been a key standout. And the confidence to come along to one of our everyday events, much the same as Riv Plains. We are seeing our attendance of that age demographic increase at our general events, which has been awesome. And they're not afraid to ask the questions. So that's definitely been something that we believe is, although the word drought may not be associated with it in every circumstance, it's definitely building their personal resilience to be able to face challenges and tackle them head on.
Yeah, awesome. And that confidence to ask questions, Amy, did you have that in mind when you first started the project?
A little bit. I refer back to our first session with our Rudao group, and we did a prioritisation session similar to BCG. We let them kind of help guide what we were going to plan for the lifetime, and it was a very much introductory session. I think there were 20 odd young guys in the room, and then I had 5 dads sitting at the back of the sports club we were in, and I gave an overview of what we were doing, what we were hoping to aim and achieve, and kind of said, all right, so what do you guys want to do? Nothing. Not a question. No one put their hand up. Nothing. And it's kind of, I think one of the dads kind of read the room and said, all right, come on, blokes, let's go. As soon as they walked out of the room, the confidence increased. I had all sorts of different topics being thrown at me, which was awesome. And just recently we held another event together with a really good spread of the young farmers and the older generation, and they were asking questions with no issues at all. So I think we have definitely made an impact in that space, and whether it's just the confidence and the understanding around certain concepts that they feel okay to ask those questions.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a big thing, isn't it? Like to have someone in a room is one thing, but have them feel empowered enough to actually participate is completely different. Yeah, that's awesome. Who's up next? Grace, throw over to you.
So I think in our region, like I said earlier, some of the regions we work in, there hasn't actually, or the farmers haven't really experienced a really significant drought period. So that's kind of a risk in itself because they haven't had the opportunity to develop those strategies or the mindsets or the networks that get you through those tougher seasons. So I think through this network, what's working well and what we're really trying to do is build drought resilience from the ground up. So really give those young farmers the confidence and the knowledge and the connections they need to make really sound decisions even when that season does turn. So focusing on strengthening those foundational agronomic skills so that they can actually manage inputs and assess seasonal outlooks and make those timely cropping decisions when things don't go your way. But then also equally and maybe even more important, helping to build those social networks and that peer support, which really can be the buffer in those dry times, not just emotionally but practically. So when you've kind of got that network to call on, you've got people to call, share ideas with and learn from, that sort of thing. So I think fostering a culture where it's safe to talk about failure too, and to explore that kind of adaptive thinking, I think is helping us to improve the drought resilience amongst our young farmers in the region. Yeah,
that's awesome. And I love that you say too, the space to talk about failure as well, because that's important. That's where our lessons sit, isn't it?
Yeah, and often that's often, I don't know, this stoic mindset that we sometimes see in farming families prevents that from kind of happening at home. So providing that opportunity for that to occur, I think, is positive.
Yeah, awesome. And I might share with you guys later as well. Some of you may or may not be aware, Gippsland Ag have part of their community impact program was to develop a decision-making framework that was the trigger to when to start doing what in the drought process, being the impacts that they've experienced in the past. So I'll get that from Jen and ask her if she minds if I share it with the group. So, because that's been, it's a great tool. It was developed in conjunction with the Victorian Drought Hub as well. So that's quite a good tool. So with no further ado, I'll throw over to you for your response to this question, Laura.
Yeah, look, it's not too dissimilar to both Grace and Amy, really, in that we've helped build connections amongst the younger gen, connections for both peers and also local businesses and entities that they can turn to for assistance during, a drought if and when to come throughout their time in the hot seat. And also developing any technical and business knowledge along the way themselves throughout the program, which will then in turn allow them to be better prepared for any challenges that do come as part of out of a drought, really. So
that's good, and I think that's important too, because we kind of take it for granted as well. I think that you don't really think about, well, where do I go? Who do I go and talk to when I need to find out about, I don't know, whether it be what support's available, or, how do I tap into a fodder drop, or how do I tap into someone who's going to, support the health needs of my family, that type of stuff. So yeah, that's really good. They're really good outcomes, all of them. So that's awesome. We've still got a little bit of time up our sleeves. Does anybody have any questions that they wanted to ask these three wonderful ladies? And it's okay if not. So just feel free to. Wendy Thorsburn from downtown sunny Mergen. Over to you.
Yeah, I've got a question. I guess it's a little bit off topic, but I'd really like to hear from you three ladies or any others that are there. In my area, I guess I'm seeing that there's a lot of disasters happening around here, natural drought, whatever it is. So there's a lot of overlapping disaster programs just happening all around us. There's so many things that are happening the same. It's only quite a small landholder pool around here, and they're just getting inundated with all these programs. And on the other side of that, I'm just seeing that there's so much information out there that's available. Where do you actually start, say, with doing a myriad of plans that are out there? Are you sort of seeing the same thing? And how, I guess, are your communities or your producers dealing with your younger networks? How are they dealing with all of this information, all of these overlapping programs, all of these plans?
I'm happy to start. Yeah, Wendy, we're definitely seeing the same thing, particularly probably over the past maybe 2 years. And it is a constant, battle's the wrong word, but it's, I guess for us, it's been about keeping the dialogue really open as much as possible with all the other services, which namely in our region are probably local government. So a lot of the funding goes through them. So yeah, just keeping that dialogue really open around what's happening, like what we've got planned, what they've got planned, and opportunities to collaborate. Yeah, so there have been a few opportunities too where it's worked to collaborate, and I mean it makes sense. I think it's you get greater impact, you're able to pool resources, and you're right, in probably an industry where we're actually seeing declining numbers, it just makes sense because event fatigue is totally a thing.
I think too, you probably want to try and I guess obtain what it is that the younger people within your catchment want, whether that's via survey or uncovering what their issues or problems are by certain types of questions that you can put out there to obtain that information without asking them straight out. They may not necessarily know themselves, but you could ask certain things to be able to then uncover maybe an issue area, and then approach finding the right solution based on that problem.
Yeah, and we, I guess, have faced, similar to all regions, a really key point for us is making sure that communication channel is always there, regardless of whether it's whether we're facing disaster in some areas, but really talking and yeah, we would talk to our very local, I guess, state government organisations really frequently. A lot of them are involved with our farming systems group on either our research and development panel and things like that. So we are always talking to them, whether we are in disaster recovery mode, or it's just every day. And having that channel of communication is so, so important to then, I guess, we disseminate a lot of information weekly via an email newsletter, and that we, our very small team, do a very try our very hardest to make sure the really important opportunities are captured in there, but also it's got a nice, I guess, a place that just reminds people or jogs their memory. Oh, that's right. There's all those other resources here.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, I think Amy might have dropped out on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, thanks for that.
But that's so true. Another region as well with the same sort of challenges, Wendy, is Gippsland here in Victoria. Huge region, bushfire flooding, et cetera, et cetera. They're a really strong, well-coordinated community. They've pulled together on a number of different levels, getting all of those mechanisms and all those funding avenues together to start the conversation and make it a more collaborative approach. So, because like Grace said, event fatigue is a very real thing. So trying to manage that for their community as well. Good question, Wendy. Does anybody else have any other questions that they wanted to ask the ladies?
Yeah, I've got a question, Fee.
Over to you, Jay.
There's been a lot of focus on, the father figures and the sons, that sort of thing. What's the demand or opportunity for young women that sort of want to go farming? Has there been much participation, or are there social barriers, that sort of thing? Because I know there's, quite a few out there that are heavily engaged in farming as well.
Maybe to start on that one too. Jay, we definitely have more males come to these events. There's no doubt about it. But we would rarely not have a female at the event. So that's really positive. And I think it's getting more and more just normal for it to be males and females. I think what we've found has worked really well is not, I guess, isolating the fact that like having female-only events or anything. So it's just young farmers coming along regardless of gender, age, anything. And the information is delivered in the same way it would be anyone else. So I think not making it this taboo thing has maybe made females feel more comfortable coming along.
That's great. Thanks, Grace.
Thanks, Grace. Laura, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'm just not sure as to why. If there was, not sure. We do have females that attend the events as well, and we don't. Similar to Grace, don't have it as a gender-specific program, or nor do we communicate like that. So I'm not too sure. It's really the question around it, if there's anything in particular that you wanted to know related to any females that were in your region that are younger, or I'm not sure why the interest of the female versus male for the program. Maybe a question back to you guys.
No, I just think, Laura, from just reflecting back on the way our conversation has flowed, a lot of it's been about, getting the blokes in the room and all that sort of stuff. So, and I think it was just more a general question than a specific one. Amy, welcome back. We did lose Amy for a minute there, but she's getting her steps up and come back. So Jay's question was really that the nuts and bolts of it, Jay, if you don't mind me paraphrasing, is, do you have much female participation? I mean, you were saying before a lot about the dads saying, come on, son, let's get you on board. Has there been a role in that for the women in your community as well?
Yeah, so our attendance as young female farmers is low. there aren't a lot of them, but when they are there, they do come along. And we probably see it not necessarily always at our young farmer events, but we see it as a bit of we're seeing more and more young females coming back on the farm, and they're coming to our general events, not necessarily, young farmer specific. And I think some of the best conversations I've had around this project have been with the mums, to be quite honest. The mums of the guys and girls that have come along, and how they're seeing it reflect in their sons and their daughters' communication as a, I guess, farm business on that, like, actual not mum and dad level, but that farm business level has improved significantly. But it is somewhere that we are always open for improvement in our region, because it's definitely not done great. And we do work closely with Wattle, who run generally workshops directed at females in our area. And we work closely with them to promote any of their workshops that are on. That's probably... It's not something we're doing great. We've definitely got room for improvement, but it's not happening.
Yeah, and that connection with Wattle as well, Women Together Learning, do an amazing job. They've been, much like Birchip, Stage 1 and Stage 2 participants of the Future Drought Fund programming in resilient community, better prepared communities. So they do some great stuff as well. So very good. All right. Well, I must say that's been a really good conversation. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any other questions before we move on to programming? Oh, there's one more comment in the chat. Just let me have a look at that. Glennis, finding the same thing in WA on the planning and strategies. Keep the door open, partner and collaborate wherever needed. Local, state and federal governments. It is time consuming and difficult to prioritise with limited resources to maintain connections and networks. For female participation, it's the numbers game, still male dominated. Mums have signed the boys up. And so that was from Glennis from Madfig. And great, Christy. And Christy's in WA has said that they've been finding that there's a shift towards more women attending events as well. So that's an awesome response. I was going to throw another question. Did anybody have any other questions that they wanted to ask? All right. Well, we'll move through the program stuff, but before we do, a couple of things. I just want to say thank you so much. That's been a really good discussion. I hope everyone's gotten as much out of it as I have, in just hearing about, the different motivations for you to get where you're at. A lot of the commonalities that you've been able to achieve and the ways that you've been doing things. But, congratulations all of you for the work that you've been doing in your community, and thank you for working the way that you do and sharing the way that you have. Before we move into the programming as well, I did spot a name in here who I'm a little bit surprised I wasn't expecting to see, but I just wanted to, everybody's thinking about our Western Queenslanders and Northern New South Wales communities. So hoping everybody's as safe as you can be, and hope everything starts to slow down a bit and settle down a bit and you get all the help and support that you need. But I will pass over to you, Gemma. If you're ready, we'll throw over to Gemma from ARLF to give an ARLF update, and then we'll go back to Kate. So thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah, hi everyone, and coming to you from sunny Queensland. We are this weekend back the Sunshine State, and definitely thinking of our friends over in the Central West and Northern New South Wales, as Fee just mentioned. And yes, we've had quite a fair bit of rain. It's finally stopped in Queensland. Very happy to see the sun. We are. Just a bit of an ARLF update. I don't know, do you have a slide there, Fee or Kate? Do you want me to? Just thought it nice of you.
I've got it. Sorry, I did flick this presentation off before.
Yeah. I know she'll
my craziness,
but I just thought. And we have my beautiful colleague Gemma here. You know that two gems are better than one. So just we have Gemma Brown here.
I'd like to make it confusing to have two Gemmas.
Yes, Gem coming from the NT. So just a quick ARLF update, everyone. Thank you so much for all your support thus far. We are well and truly very knee-deep in workshops and programs at the moment, and our team are working tirelessly around the clock. I'm sure Jem can back me up. We are on our 95th Changemaker workshop, and I think by next week we'll be on our 100th Changemaker workshop. Can you believe it? Across the 35 regions. So thank you all for your support. And I know you were just mentioning just then the males dominating those kinds of workshops with what you were just mentioning, but we have the opposite. We've got a lot of females, and so any support and making the males come through to our Changemaker workshops will be very much appreciated. So so we've got a couple of regions to go. I might throw over to you, Jem, just to talk about those regions that we've got to go.
100%. So we've got a few regions that we're kind of just kicking off in now. Some of our work is being done in SA, so we've got some workshops happening. There's one in Burra today, actually, which is very exciting, but we've got some in the Barossa and then some in the Eyre Peninsula as well, which is really exciting. We've got kind of a few scattered here, there and everywhere, and we can actually give you a link to our website so you can see what's coming and what's left to go. But we've got a couple in Victoria, a couple in Queensland, but also, as you can see on the right of this slide, we've also got some community leadership programs as well, which are really exciting. So there's a lot for us to do over the next couple of months, but let me grab that link and I'll put it in here. Yeah.
Thanks, Jem. Yeah. So we have over 1,700 changemakers across nationally now, which is insane. So if you're not in our Drought Ready group already, jump into that. I might get Jem to put a little link into the Drought Ready. Those change makers are coming into that group thick and fast, asking questions and connecting, sharing ideas and even asking questions about some challenges that they might be having in that space. So make sure you're in that network, Drought Ready on Facebook, and I'll get Jem to put the link in there. As Jem just mentioned, we've got some community leadership programs coming up. So these are a step on from our Changemaker workshops. So they're a 5-day intense leadership program, really focusing and honing on that practical leadership journey that you're about to commence, or you're an established leader that may be stuck in that role looking for that next step to further that journey. So we've got ones coming up in Wimmera in Victoria. We've got the Central West New South Wales. I think all of our participants, our Changemaker participants and FTF project partners would have received an email if you're in those regions about these programs. So happy to answer any questions that you might have about those. And also, I think you would have all got our email regarding our National Changemaker gathering in June. So who doesn't want a holiday to Sunshine State in Cairns? And we'll be really focusing and taking 40 sponsored changemakers to that Cairns program over 2 days, and we will be looking at how we can cross-promote some of those challenges and issues arising and moving forth on some different topics in that workshop as well. So that's what we've got coming up. I've just put Jem B's and my emails there for you all in case you want to reach out about any of that we've just talked about. But does anybody have any questions? If we don't, I think we're all good to throw back over to you, Fee. Thank you.
Thanks, Jem. You guys have been busy. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much. Kate, over to you.
Yep, thank you so much, Gemmers. Fee, if you want to put the next slide up, just a quick update from FRRR. So where are we now? We are in the home stretch of the program with all projects to be finished by the 25th of June. So if you have finished your project, if you could please do your final report, that would be much appreciated. We have received some great ones already, and we're so thankful for all those of you who have done them. Some fantastic stories of impact coming through and some amazing photos. We just love photos. They really bring your story to life, and we can use them in our case studies and on our social media. So please keep those coming. If you need help with your report, you can always reach out to Fee or someone else in the team. We also have online the recording of the evaluation working session that Nous Group did a few months back to help you with your report, as well as general FRRR tips on final reporting. They are due on the 25th of July. Speaking of case studies, if you would like to showcase your project, please get in touch either in the comments or send us a line. We'd love to hear from you. At the end of our program, towards I think it's October, we will be doing a really large report on the past. Well, then it'll be 3 years, and so we'd love to showcase as many of the projects as we can. As well as the fact that FRRR has turned 25 years old this year. Yay. And so organization-wide, we are looking to tell the stories of the wonderful projects that have happened over the past 25 years. So if you go to that link, you fill in a little bit of details, and then we can showcase your project. And we will be doing our final quarterly webinar on the 8th of July. So we'd love to hear from you in terms of what you would like us to cover in that last session. Obviously, the projects will be done, but it's, what's coming up next. Next slide, please, Fee. And then where are we going to from here? So some of you may have seen that in January, the department announced the funding strategy for the next stage of delivery of the Future Drought Fund. For the next 8 years, nearly $520 million. And so what's publicly available, that information is on the communities program page and is noted in the plan. So we will be able to, and we anticipate being able to share more details with you post-election. Otherwise, Nous Group, who are doing our evaluation, have just completed deep dives of 13 regions across the country and are collating that information for the final evaluation report. And part of that will be outcome panels, which they did for the midterm report about 12 months ago. So you may be hearing from us to reach out to you if you'd like to participate, if you'd have something to say, you'd like to, share something great about the program, or maybe something, hey, I've got an idea, this is how you could do it better, or more importantly, what it has meant to you and how it has impacted your region. Now, and going forward, staying connected. Nationally, the Drought Ready Network, as Gemma mentioned, on Facebook is a great place to stay connected across the country. But also, we are wondering how you are planning on staying connected regionally once, your project is done in the next 3, 6, so forth months. So in the email that we send through with the recording of this webinar, we will have a little poll, maybe a little survey to ask you what you're planning on doing. You don't have to respond to it, but we're thinking that some of the great ideas that you have, we could share with the others, and they might use that information to implement new projects or new ways of connecting within their region to continue the great work that you've been doing. And final reports again, 25th of July, please. And I think that's all from me.
Okay. Thanks so much, Amy, Grace, and Laura, for sharing your insights again. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time out, taking an hour out of your busy schedules to come and say good day and listen in. So, but like Kate said, we're keen to hear from you guys what you want to talk about in the last session. So please feel free to reach out and let us know if you've got any questions on anything that I can help you with. I'm Fee. Give me a call. You've got all of our numbers. So take care, everyone. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you in a few months.